Good evening, everybody. It's the Cryptid Huntress. I'm Jessica Jones, fresh in from Alabama, y'all. Man, we had such a wonderful time today at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. Yes, you guys have heard me talk about that thing every single show for the past couple months. And today it finally happened. I want to give a huge shout out to everybody who showed up at that East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall, and to all the guys who put that on and made that possible. What a freaking great day today. I made so many new friends, and my great people out there in the field doing the Bigfoot field research out here supporting other Bigfooters, okay? And it was just a really great day. Okay, really great day. I got some pictures from today, and I figured maybe I could kind of show some before we start the show today, because I just wanted to give a little shout out to everybody. My dog says hey too. She's back here. Freya, she's missed me all day. I've been gone all day today. But shout out to Phyllis and John. You guys are the coolest. It was really great getting to hang out with you guys, and I know we got a lot of mutual friends out here in this field, and I do have some pictures. I believe that is Stacy Brown Jr. He gave his presentation this morning. You guys, it was fantastic. This was all streamed live on YouTube, by the way, on the Caffeinated Cryptid YouTube channel. Flat Rock and Tyler Howell were there. There's Bobby Dizzle right there. You guys might know Bobby Dizzle from his YouTube channel, and he was the one that was broadcasting live. And here's some of the fellas. I grabbed this off of your Facebook page. I think that's Jesse. So Jesse and Chris and Dell Boswell. Dell is an MC. He's also a Bigfoot experiencer as well. And of course, we had David Hewlett there. He gave a wonderful presentation, big time, just wonderful presentation there. And here I am with some of the guys. I look like I'm super short, y'all. I'm really not that short, I promise. But yeah, some of the guys, it was a great event, fun for everybody. And I've got more pictures, but those are all I'm going to show. We'd be here all night if I showed all my pictures. Okay, so, but shout out to everybody who came to the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. Until next year, I will be there as an attendee or whatever, in any capacity, man. It's just great to go out and support people and meet people face to face. Okay, I highly recommend it. I highly recommend it. Because a lot of the people that are at these events are in our chats. Okay. And so it's just a great place to go have fun, talk about Bigfoot. Okay, y'all. Well, we have a fantastic show tonight. I have my really good friend, David Pardue, here with us tonight. And I had actually shown a picture of David's tree twist. He didn't twist it, but he was one of the people that helped find it. Up in North Carolina, this huge tree twist. That picture is just a showstopper, y'all. It is. There's nothing like it out there. So I brought David on tonight. We're going to talk about Bigfoot and whatever else comes up. You know, Cursed Lands of the Cryptids. We're going to talk about that tonight. And Bigfoot revealing himself. And he and she have revealed themselves to David up in North Carolina, down here in Georgia, and all over the place, wherever we do Bigfooting together. So you guys get ready. We're going to have a fun show tonight, and I'm so glad y'all are here. If you guys would like to support all my work and keep up with whatever I'm doing, please go over to my website, thecryptidhuntress.com, and you can find my calendar of events, and all the archives of my shows are there. And also, I do have a Patreon if you guys would like to support my work. Thank you to all of my Patreon members. I also have a membership here on the channel on YouTube as well. Thank you guys for being members. And I have a shop on Etsy. It's called War Woman Goods. Okay. All right. Well, the next event I have, last bit of business here, the next event I have will be the UFO conference on February the 1st. So please come out and support your girl up in Blue Ridge, Georgia on February the 1st. And then it was just announced David Pardue will be at the Georgia Bigfoot Conference along with myself and Matthew Dell and some others. So y'all come see us at that too. All right, let's get the show going. Okay. And I see all y'all in this chat. Thank y'all so much for being here. Thank you to all my mods and all my members. And thank you. Okay, so we're going on the hunt with David Pardue tonight to discuss the cursed lands of the cryptids and the revelation of Bigfoot across North America. David Pardue had his first Bigfoot experience at the age of 16 on his aunt's farm, and that sparked a deep interest in understanding just what that 6-foot-tall bipedal creature that he watched run across the tobacco field while leaving 14-inch tracks behind was. This interest in Bigfoot led him to research the subject in depth, and finally, after years of his own private research, to join BFRO in 2006 as a field investigator. He joined Carolina Bigfoot Field Research, CBFR, in 2014, and in 2018, David founded the Carolina Cryptid Field Research Team, CCFR, with the help of Terry Windell of Rock Hill, South Carolina. Terry now has Rock Hill Bigfoot over there. Shout out to Terry. And so David conducts field investigations and research throughout the Southeastern United States. Yes, I go out in the field with David quite often. Please follow Carolina Cryptid Field Researchers on Facebook. And they also have a YouTube channel. You guys, please help me welcome to the show our good friend, Mr. David Pardue.
Hey, Jessica.
David. Hey.
Good to be back.
Thank you for being here. Yeah. Thank you for being here, David. I actually brought you up on during my presentation today. You'd be proud, I hope. Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Just making sure you're there.
I just lost the studio a minute ago. I had to log back in. It went out while you were talking.
Oh my goodness. There's all sorts of issues we're having. It's like it's Mercury retrograde or something around here. But hey, we're here. We're here. I barely made it home in time to get a show put together tonight. And so you're the man, David. Thank you for being here. Because I think it's really cool that I've incorporated that tree twist into my presentation today with all the people out there in Alabama. And I thought it's some of the best evidence. I mean, we saw a lot of evidence today. Let me tell you, Flat Rock out of Alabama. He and Tyler put on in their presentation, he showed videos, David, of actual Bigfoots, the Bigfoots that surround his home at night. He has videos of these Bigfoots in their Eyeshine, taking dog food out of his backyard, beating on his house. I mean, just creeping around, watching his mother and stuff. I mean, it is crazy. The evidence that he has is just phenomenal. Okay. And just to put that together with like pictures like of your tree twist and all the evidence that David Hewlett had and Tyler, it's just it makes a good case for Bigfoot being real. Okay, it really does. And so thank you for letting me use that picture. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, anytime.
I do. Okay, I need to go feed my dog some treats over here. This happens almost every show now. My dog, as soon as I get on air, she starts crying. Okay.
No, I put my alligator to bed. I'm crate training a new bloodhound puppy, and she's driving me crazy.
Okay, I have treats though, so we're good. We're going to be good to go. She's going to eat this whole bag before the end of the show tonight, probably. But okay, so for the audience, people who are not tuned in before or are not familiar, can you tell the audience a little bit about your Bigfoot field research, where you research? I mean, you don't have to give specifics, but tell the audience about your Bigfoot research a little bit.
Well, the majority of it is in Uwharrie. I think most people know that Uwharrie is my home base. That's where I spend most of my time. And most of the guys I Bigfoot with, that's where we spend most of our time. It's not as good as it used to be. If people have ever watched Finding Bigfoot, Uwharrie was the show, the first season, second episode. And once the location was put out to the public, the Bigfoot activity died down 90%. So it's a little harder to go down and have an interaction with them, but I know where they're at. I have to hike into where they're at, but they're still there. It's just activity slowed down. It's not as good as it used to be. Everything I learned about Bigfoot, I learned in Uwharrie before that show aired, and I'm still learning. But the basics I learned, those two and a half years that I had in there, and at the time, I was the only Bigfooter going into Uwharrie, and that's back when I was just started with the BFRO, and I started, spending some time down there. I was by myself, and I realized immediately it was a gold mine, and I recruited some other BFRO members into it, and then we had a tight little group of 3 or 4 people total, and it was amazing. And now you go down, you're lucky if something happens. If you camp where we used to camp, you're lucky if something happens. But reliably, I can go to one spot in there and have an encounter, and they're still the same. They still recognize me, and they come up pretty close.
How close have they gotten to you before, David? What's the closest?
The ones in Uwharrie, 10 feet.
10 feet.
Yeah. There was one time, Don Tart, Don.
Yes.
Myself and Don and one other gentleman when we were there. It was in July. It was really hot. We had a fire going, and just for light, basically, we were sitting probably 10 foot away from the fire, and a big one come and stood up right behind Don Tart's car. It was just sitting there staring at us. And I told Don, I said, don't turn around, but he's standing right behind you. And by that time, we were so used to seeing them that it wasn't a surprise. We were expecting them, but it just stood up right behind his car. And it was almost as wide as Don's trunk of Don's car. And his eyes were shining, like glitter, just flickering from the flames. The Eyeshine, and I could see his face, everything. And I told Don, I said, he's right behind you. Don't turn around, because we would never point or look directly at him. They did split, but Don tried the old trick of turning around with some night vision. And as soon as he turned his head, it dropped back down behind his car. And then it showed back up about 15 minutes later. Don finally got to see him, the back of him, and just running down a Forest Service road away from us. But that's the closest one in Uwharrie. Other than have them walk by my tent when I'm asleep or run their hands across your tent, that would be closer. But actually seeing it and knowing 100% what you're seeing, about 10 feet.
Oh, yeah. I think they've come up to my tent several times, or up to my truck. I've been sleeping in my truck lately. When I go out in the field, I'll sleep out there, especially if I were to go camping with my son or something. I prefer to sleep in the back of my truck where I can lock the doors, and so they can't breathe on me through my tent and stuff. But I also will go out and be in my tent and wake up and be having dreams that there's a Bigfoot breathing on me right outside of my tent. Like, I've actually had a dream when I was up in North Georgia, and I was having a dream that a Bigfoot, I could see its breath blowing into my tent. It was like a mist. And I woke up to that. And then when I woke up, I was like, I don't think that was a dream. Okay. I don't know if that was a dream or not. There's a fine line between dreams and reality out there sometimes. It's like, man, I think there was a Bigfoot right there, right up on me. So, my goodness.
It happens.
It does. It does. It happens more often than not when you're out there a whole lot. Well, I wanted to show that picture to the audience tonight because I was talking about your tree twist. And I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not. You can probably see it from your phone here. But this is the picture that I was showing. I put it in my presentation to show this twist. This is the most impressive tree twist I have ever seen. And this is what I showed in my presentation today, David. Okay, I even put a little Bigfoot beside it, and I put your name up there at the top. Tell the audience about this tree twist, and how many times was that twisted? Who found it? Who was with you? And what happened to it?
We found that tree twist. The gentleman that was with me when we discovered it is standing in the background of that picture, actually. This was our regular research area, and there's a whole story that goes with that tree twist, but I think it was 2007 when we found it, and there was no other damage to any other tree around there. The ground was not disturbed, and we were there the weekend before. We were there, and it was not there. And we came back the next weekend. The ground was not disturbed. There was no other trees, no other damage whatsoever. And the best that we could tell, it was twisted about 13 times. And it is a 6-inch poplar tree that was broke and twisted around and around and around. And the splinters from that twist, if you measure the edge of one splinter to the next, they were 6 foot. It was a 6 foot spread on the tree twist itself.
Wow. I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean, I've seen quite a few tree structures since I've been out in the, doing this research. And I've seen a lot of arch trees. I've seen a lot of, the asterisk types of designs, where the trees are bent over. Actually, if it's okay, I was going to show this picture we showed the last time you came on the show. You have a picture of the asterisk, like where they stick the sticks all together to kind of hold another stick down. And so I've come across that quite a bit, especially in one area that we researched. We have a question in the audience. Why do they make these structures, David? Why do you think they're making them? Do you think they all mean something different?
Yeah, there's a whole multitude of stuff that they do. Like this one, they're just territorial markers, and they're not for us. They're for another group of Bigfoot that's moving through. If you find an X, and when I mean an X, it's just two trees crossed, and they don't have to be tree size. They can be, stuff as big as your arm, but it's wedged. Each piece is wedged in, and you can tell it didn't fall there. And a lot of times they use a species of tree that's not even growing anywhere near where the X was made. They'll use pine in a hardwood forest, or they'll use hardwood in a pine forest. So they're purposely built. But once you find enough of them, and if you pay attention, a lot of times you'll find those X's on human trails. Like if you're walking down the Uwharrie Trail or the Appalachian Trail, and you're getting ready to come up, and if you're walking down the trail and you're getting ready to come into a blind corner, that all of a sudden you're going to be fully exposed, a lot of times you'll find those exits. And in my experience and in my research, Bigfoot usually don't walk down a human trail. They'll parallel it. They'll walk to the left or the right of it. And whatever side they prefer, and it's usually the high ground they prefer, you'll find these X's. And it's just a marker for them to beware. You're getting ready to come into a place that you're going to be exposed. It's like road signs. Some of the other stick structures you find, the teepees, and now a lot of times they'll use logs for that. They put it in a crook of a tree, and they'll have one coming from the left and one coming from the right. And a lot of times they don't have bark on them. They'll strip the bark off of those trees. And they put those at intersections of human trails. I've noticed a lot. I haven't really found a whole lot of them out in the just open forest. They're always associated with a road or a trail, or sometimes a game trail, but they're road markers for an intersection. And then there's other stick structures that they do that identify how many individuals are in a certain group.
Yeah, that's right. You've shown me some pictures before of sticks were leaning up against a tree, and it looks so primitive, and and to the normal person that's walking around, they think, well, I mean, could be a person that did that or a kid, but when you're researching these particular areas and they're so far off the beaten path, not a lot of people go out there. Your area, and that is part of the importance of researching the same area for a long time, because you get to know the area, you get to know who's out there, who's going out there, and the Bigfoots that are out there too. I mean,
Yep.
you even have a relationship with some Bigfoots out at the place that you research that you've been watching grow up since they were babies.
Yep. I have pictures of them and video. Maybe one day we'll break the video down small enough till we can get it on your show, and we'll show the Matthew footage.
The Matthew
Yeah.
footage.
Yeah.
Yes. Started off as a little baby and watched him grow into a full adult. How long do you think a lifespan is of a Bigfoot? You ever thought of it? I know you've thought about it.
Well, the ones in Uwharrie I've been dealing with since 2006. And I've been dealing with the same individuals most of that time, either through photographic evidence that that's who we're dealing with. So how many years is that now? Almost 20 years almost in that one location. I do know that the big male that was there when I first started going there in 2006, he looked like Chewbacca. And we have I had Don Tart had a really good game cam picture of him, and I lost it when my computer crashed. But he looks just like Chewbacca. But that particular Squatch, I haven't seen anything of him. I think he was the one that I used to deal with a lot in Uwharrie, on a every night basis that we're there. I haven't seen much of him, or anything of him. And but I think this Matthew footage, that one is the new male that's taken over responsibility. He's the alpha male there. And I've been following him since he was a baby. Got a picture of him on his mama's hip.
Okay. You have been researching that area for a long time. I meant to ask you before I moved on to the next subject about that tree twist. That is a marker of some sort. And one of the gentlemen that actually found it, didn't he cut that down and take it home with him at some point?
Yeah. It was actually supposed to be on the Finding Bigfoot episode, and they run out of time. And he actually brought it back on site, and we were going to film it, and then they run out of time for whatever reason, and it never made the show. But yeah, it's, as far as I know, he still has it.
Oh my gosh. Do you think that upset the Bigfoots out there?
I'm sure it did.
Mm-hmm.
The story that goes with that, the history of that tree twist, if you got time, I'll tell you about it.
Yeah, please.
When we first started researching this area, when we would head out into the forest, we never used any trails or roads or anything. We would just walk out into the forest. And you're talking 60,000 acres. And a lot of times when we come back in, the next day we would find we would call it, nicknamed it the looking glass. And they would take a sapling and bend it around another sapling and tighten a knot. And it looked like a sucker or a mirror, if you were holding a hand mirror up. And this particular structure had been there for about 2 years. And the Forest Service come in and cut a dead pine down because it was in danger of falling on, the campground itself. So the Forestry Service had come in and cut that tree down. And when they cut the tree down, it landed on that looking glass structure that had been there for 2 years and destroyed it. And the very next weekend, that tree twist showed up. So it was almost like you tore my structure that's been out here for so many years. You tore that up, so I'm going to make one bigger and better, bigger and better. Tear this one down, or I'm going to show you. That's just the feeling I got when we found it and we understood what had happened there. And if anybody's familiar with the Mike Green footage the squeaky footage, the tree that was cut down and destroyed that initial street structure, the stump from that tree is the one that Mike Green was putting the Zagnut candy bars on for bait when he got his footage that was on Finding Bigfoot, that footage.
Wow.
So it's all that happened right there within a 30-foot circle. And I have the Zagnut candy bar wrappers from that footage he had.
Wow. That is wild. That is, you know, to me, a tree twist, call me crazy, but it feels like that looks like a frustrated Bigfoot action. I'm no psychologist. Okay, I'm no cryptid psychologist at all. But I'm just saying that would show, you know how they say people that like twist, I don't know. It's like I said, I'm no doctor, but people that, you know, take the labels off of stuff, you know, you get jittery with stuff and you're always crumple around paper and stuff. That's a sign of like nervousness or frustration. Okay. And to me, a tree twist looks like there's a frustrated or mad Bigfoot. That's what it looks like to me. I mean, it doesn't look like it was just for nothing.
I think that was a show of strength. It's like, yeah, and that they are huge there. There's some big ones in there. Not far from where that was located, we found other tree twists before, and they're trees maybe the size of your wrist that have been broken and twisted around. And that's a normal size tree twist that we normally find. And that goes for not just Uwharrie, anywhere I've ever been. That's just the size I've seen. I've never seen one this big since, and I've never heard of one being anybody finding one that size.
Yeah.
It's huge.
That is really huge. It is. I wanted to take just a second to thank everybody Kent, I wanted to thank you for the super sticker, Kent. It says, cryptids coming out everywhere. Can't wait to go on a camping trip. Yeah, just be careful out there. I was telling the audience today, just be safe out there in these national parks and stuff. If you go out to a state or national park, just be careful. Go have fun though. Okay. And don't worry too much about the cryptids. They'll leave you alone as long as you leave them alone for the most part. And the girl and her gong, Maureen and Gus, thank you so much. She says, gas money from Gus and me. Hit that like button, y'all. Thank you, Maureen. That is so sweet. I appreciate it very much. Yeah, it's yeah, and I could always use the gas money. So thank you. We're doing this hobby that we have, David, is not cheap, is it? It's not cheap. It's not. We put way more money into it than we get out of it. That's for sure. Any day.
I would like to have the thousands that I've spent in the last 25 plus years of doing this. I'd like it's in the thousands and thousands.
Oh yeah, for sure, especially with the equipment. Okay, speaking of equipment, and David is the one, you guys, who spotted the portal in the meadow, by the way, in case people who are watching are not familiar with that. One of our teams, out Anomalous Studies and Observation Group, we have that incident where we had the portal that showed up. It was a big cube in the meadow. David's the one who spotted that, y'all. Okay. And that was through some of your night vision equipment. I believe it was night vision or FLIR. And FLIR. Okay. Well, I was actually, okay, before I was actually going to bring up the topic of portals when it comes to those tree structures too, because I've been out Bigfooting with people before, and we've come across some structures, and it was their belief that those tree bins were actually portals. What do you think about that? Have you ever talked about that or heard that before?
No. Everything that I've ever seen, the tree bins and tree bows, that type of stuff, it was conjunction. If you follow along, and Uwharrie was a perfect example, you would find 10 or 15 in a row, going across acres and acres of land. And they were like, they were building blinds out of it. Something they could walk behind that shielded them from where they were at in a trail or a road. And if you don't mess with them, and the trees are usually left alive and they continue to grow, and as they grow, and if you spend enough time in the same areas and you'll watch those trees kind of grow together, and they form kind of a living blind. And but I've never heard of them being used as a portal. But some of the stuff I've witnessed in the last 10 years, I wouldn't put anything. Just because I
Right.
hadn't seen it, don't mean it's not that something that's could be.
Right. I agree. Anything's possible at this day and age. Okay. Some people have even told me that they think that the tree bends could be some kind of battery, like a circuit board or something, like powering up, like a battery would power up the land or for portals and stuff. I don't know. Everybody's got an interesting take on them. Okay. I'm just going to say that. We have a question in the chat tonight from Adolf. What's up, Adolf? Adolf said his own Bigfoot experiences and Dogman and ET abduction experience. It's in a pretty well-known documentary called 10/11/02, based out of California. Near the he used to like to go camping a lot too, by the way. But he's asking, do the baby Bigfoots stay as a baby longer or shorter time span? I guess like compared to humans. How long did it take? Oh my God, Matthew. I couldn't remember his name. Matthew. How long did it take Matthew to go from a little baby to like a gigantic Bigfoot?
Less than 20 years.
Less than 20 years?
Yep. I know.
Okay.
We got a picture of him when he was on his mama's hip, and then Don Tart got a couple game cam pictures of him, and it just seemed to double in size in a year.
Double in a year?
Yeah. Now it's like their growth is kind of like a puppy. I mean, they're coming up pretty fast, and they're pretty good size, and within a year they're pretty good size.
Wow. Yeah, I've always wondered like, what their lifespan is, and that's a great question, Adolf. Like, how long do they stay a baby? Okay, because if they live longer, let's just say they live 200 years, just a ballpark number. You'd think that maybe they would stay babies longer, I guess, or I would. But
I don't know. Like I said, the one that we, initially in Uwharrie, the very first male, big one that I seen and started having interactions with, he was a big boy. He's tall, but he wasn't huge in size. He was just tall and very athletic. But within just probably a 10-year span, I hadn't seen anything of him. So is he dead and gone by natural causes, or was he run off by a younger male coming up that finally was stronger than him and run him off just like, lions and bears and everything else does? The strongest in the group wins out as the alpha. I don't know, but I know here locally to me, I've got took reports of Bigfoot all the way back as far as people that are living still 80 years old, and they were interacting. They were seeing sightings here when they were a child. And is it the same ones? I don't think so. I think it's just a generational, one generation after another, and they're just like us. I'd say less than 80 years, 75 years old at the most.
wow. Okay, today I was listening to my buddy Flat Rock's presentation today, and I mentioned that I was watching the videos that he showed everybody of the Bigfoots that live around his home. They basically just sit around and watch his family. Okay, they basically just sit around and watch, and so he started setting up baby monitors around his house to pick up audio recordings and videos, and his videos are just phenomenal. Okay, it's Bigfoot, a lot of Eyeshine, and he knows which Bigfoots are which. And there was a time where one of the Bigfoots, and I have asked Flat Rock to come on the show, so he's going to be coming on the show hopefully pretty soon to talk about all this, and maybe he'll show some of his videos for us, for everybody to see them. And you guys, like I said, you can go back, watch, go to the Caffeinated Cryptid on YouTube. You can watch our presentations there. I don't know if you can see Flat Rock's videos, but you can hear him talking about them. But he said that there was one particular Bigfoot that gave them a lot of trouble. and it was harassing his mother. And that's a big no-no. Okay. It was harassing his mom. And so he ended up calling the game warden. He said, the other ones he could kind of deal with. It was very uncomfortable. He didn't like the way they were, watching him all the time and eating his dog food and lifting up his grill and licking his grease trap and stuff. I mean, it was just wild, David. He's got pictures. He actually has a handrail on his porch that has that slimy, oily handprint like you've gotten pictures of out of Uwharrie. And it was on his deck outside, and he actually ended up cutting that piece of wood off, and he takes it to the conferences to show people, which is amazing. It's awesome. So you can actually see the oil globules. I think that's what we call it. But he called animal control, or the game warden. I think he called the game warden, and he said they came out, and he thinks they eliminated it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because he said that after he called them, they came out, and they never saw that one again. So for people to think that our government, our animal control, and local, state, federal government doesn't know about Bigfoot, what do you say about that? Do you think they're fully aware of it?
I can't go into details, but I know for a fact the feds know. I know for a fact. Yeah. I won't go in how I know. I'm too closely attached to it, but yes, I know they're aware of it.
Yes, they're definitely aware of them. Kent says, do Bigfoots have fingerprints like we do? Well, yes, they do. I'm going to show you some pictures here in a minute, Kent. Media Palace, you guys, Eric's here. Okay, Eric was my guest last Saturday. And David, Eric is a journalist and a documentarian out of Texas, out of near Austin. And he's done some documentaries on the beast of Brushy Creek and the legend of Hairy Man Road, both out of the area where he lives. And of course, they're Bigfoots, right? But he's done documentaries on them, and he's a journalist. He went and got FOIA requests. Okay, he did FOIA requests and asked for some documents of Bigfoot sightings and 911 calls and emails amongst park rangers about Bigfoot and all sorts of stuff. He has the receipts, as I was saying. He has receipts on their knowledge of Bigfoot out there. So he says, if he called the game warden, there should be reports. Interesting. So that would actually make, and I think that's what Stacy Brown Jr. was saying on his presentation today. He said it's important that we do start getting FOIA requests, asking for this information, not just knowing it's there or like accepting that this happened. Let's start getting the receipts ourselves. Okay, so like anybody could go do a FOIA request to, Flat Rock's inquiry here. Find out what happened. And now they may redact the whole document, but at least you could get access to it, right?
Yeah. There's stuff out there. They want to keep it covered up for whatever reason. It's just like panthers. We have those around here. I've seen a game cam picture from one of my neighbors. He's got a farm up the road and with a female and some cubs. But you talk to DNR and they're not in this area. And you tell them, what's this picture? And well, they're not here.
Yeah. Well, they don't want to get. Well, it's not that they don't want to. It's not that nobody's going to get in trouble. Okay. But people, they don't want to admit to it because then they have to change all their regulations. The way they do everything changes, right?
Yep, and I always go back to this has been years ago, but there was the spotted owl. They were shutting the logging industry down because of the spotted owl, and it was a deep impact to the economy. I was working in wholesale lumber at the time, and it was affecting us. When you shut the mills down and stop forestry because of a spotted owl, and until they're researched and figured out their habitat and stuff. Yeah. And it was one of the Weyerhaeuser's, the corporation, it was one of their sawmills had spotted owl was nesting in the eave of one of the buildings. So it was just a way of, the environmentalists, greenies to stop something. And, but that was with an owl. If they come out and acknowledge that, this bipedal creature in human form, humanoid bipedal creatures in the forest, what's that going to do to the industry? It's to the national forest, to the national parks. You know, they'll stop. That'll just stop all tourism. It'll stop mining. It'll stop everything till they can figure out what's out there. And you know, we haven't figured out in 100 years. So what makes us think we're going to figure it out, you know, in our lifetime? So it's all economic. And then, you know, the religious end of it, you know, you start messing with religion whenever you start talking about another human type critter out there running around.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with Angelique. That's a good point. It is a good point. I'm seeing everybody in the chat talking about, not everybody, people saying TikTok's getting banned. I didn't know that. TikTok will be banned. I have a hard time keeping up with TikTok anyway. So that sucks. I hope that they don't disappear after tonight. That would suck. Okay. They're on the chat saying they'd like to see some handprints, some fingerprints. And Kent was wondering, do they have dermal ridges? Okay. And yes, they do. Is it okay if I show these pictures? We've showed them before on the show, but the handprints on the bathroom. And can you tell everybody the story behind it? I'm going to pull these pictures up. If you can tell the audience what was going on and what happened for you to be able to get these handprints. Oops. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I got the pictures up, David. You go ahead.
All right, I don't see them, but anyway, I know what pictures you're talking about. You're silent. When we were, this is one of our, you know, mini trips out there. I don't know how many was in that time. It was a bunch of us, but anyway, we were making our rounds, checking the local haunts for evidence, and we just happened to, one of the guys on our team, it might have been Ed Peters, noticed them, and they were on one of the pit toilets at one of the campgrounds, and it had rained the night before, and so everything was wet and muddy, and this thing had reached up on its left hand, was on one side of the building, and its right hand was on the other side. So it was just about reaching all the way, you know, halfway around this building and peeking out. You could tell it was peeking at something. So more than likely it was somebody was camping, and it was kind of holding on to that structure as it peeked around the corner. And I've noticed in the, you know, other encounters with them, anytime they're peeking or something, they always got their hands. They'd like to touch something when they lean out from a tree. They're holding it a lot of times, and they were just using it as support. And that's that particular picture up there now with a ruler on it going across that. That's the right hand right there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep. There's clearly two different handprints. Now, the majority of what I was showing the audience are the ones that have like the green, it looks like pollen in it. It's like a print that has, it's a little more smeared and has the pollen. And this is the other print that's separate.
It's actually like a mold or a mildew that's on the outside of that door. And when it touched it, its hands were so wet that it just kind of just almost like mud. And it's smeared, and you could see the dermal ridges in the mud in the print, and they were about 10 inches in length from the tip of the finger down to the start of the wrist, and it was huge.
Yeah, that's really big, and you can see the dermal ridges. Yes, I did meet a gentleman. By the way, I forgot to mention Manimal Research. They were representing at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall today. Shout out to all those guys. I hung out with them at the East Tennessee Squash Out. Okay, and they came down to hang out with us today. But yeah, shout out to them. I forgot. I was going to tie it into what we're talking. Oh yeah, it was David. That's what it is. In the East Tennessee Squash Out that I spoke at, there was a guy there named David. I think his last name is Zigdan. I think that's how you say his last name. And he is a detective out of North Atlanta. And he is a fingerprints expert. And he has a channel on YouTube. It is called Bigfoot Forensics, I think. I think that's the name of it.
Is he also a BFRO investigator?
He might be. He's kind of new to all of this. He's a little bit new to it, but he's very much into the forensics of the fingerprints, the dermal ridges of the hands, and the footprints. And he was asking about handprints. This would be a perfect one for him to study.
Yeah, I think Don Tart is friends with him, and Don had sent him some that was on his one of the research areas in North Georgia. Don was there, and something with big hands had put its hands on his back glass of his Xterra, or his his Xterra, and so Don had him look at it.
Wow. Well, he's asked me. He said, if you know anybody that has any kind of Bigfoot handprints or footprints, please send those to him. And he does. Oh, Mark's in here too. I met Mark at the East Tennessee Squatch Out too. Mark Lynch, what's up, buddy? And so, thank you for being here too. We had a great time there.
If you want to forward those, pictures to him and have him look at them, and just, I'll let you handle that.
Yeah. Well, okay. So what he does, he said, and this is for anybody who's out here Bigfooting, who has, I think the offer is still good. Okay. I think it would be. But he said that if there's anybody out there who has handprints, even just pictures, they don't have to be like castings or anything. They can just be pictures. If they're a pretty good clear shot of a picture, he said that he could use those. He's trying to get a database going, I guess. But he does the forensics of the handprints, and he goes to court speaking on fingerprints, doing fingerprint analysis, helping with cases and stuff. And so he has all of the documentation, all of everything that he studies on it. He puts it through some kind of program, and he will give you a free printout, he said, of the analysis of those prints. So it's worth doing it.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, and this has been a while when we took these pictures. The one you have up on the screen right now is a straight in print. It didn't drag its fingers or nothing when it lifted its hand off, and you can see the dermal ridges in the palm and on some of the fingers on that one.
Oh yeah. Well, the last time I talked to him, he had gotten his hands on. Pardon the pun there, got his hands on the cast from Elkins Creek, the Bigfoot castings from Elkins Creek. And it was actually the cast, I believe it was broken in half at some point and it was glued back together. So when it was shipped off to Dr. Meldrum, I think. And but he was analyzing that. I haven't talked to him to find out what the analysis was of that. And Greg's in the chat too. I met him at the East Alabama or the East Tennessee Squash Out too. Gosh, we got everybody in here tonight. This is great. What a great crowd tonight. But yeah, so there are people out here doing the scientific work. Okay. It's really good to know that, David. We're out here doing the boots on the ground stuff. You're gathering so much evidence. And then we've got people that are willing to do the science aspect of it and do the analysis and stuff as well. So it's a group effort, right, David?
Oh yeah. It's hundreds of people that I know personally that are out here doing it, and they're pretty serious about it. And they most of them, they find good stuff, and we look at it with each other. Unless you got somebody that's an expertise, you can hand it off to and say, "Hey, what did we find? What is this?"
Yeah,
it's nice to have somebody to be able to look at it and say, "Yeah, it's not human." At least rule it out that it's not human. That one, I don't think that's human. I'm 99.9%. It's not human. But it would be welcome to have somebody say, yeah, that even the joints, the digits, each digit doesn't match the human anatomy. And just to rule out rule out it's not human is helpful.
it is. And yes, C-Duke is saying, doesn't Adolf have handprints? Okay, so Adolf was on the show. He did have he had a picture of a handprint. Okay, so like we show these prints, how they're very oily. they stick around for a while, and it's hard to get to wipe these handprints off because they're so oily. And when some of these are analyzed, even the hair is analyzed under a microscope, there's oil globules on them. And after Adolf had his experience with his two buddies out when they went camping, they had a possible alien abduction that happened with some Bigfoot activity involved as well. The next day, he found I think it was the next day, it was shortly after it happened, there was a handprint on the top of the hood of his 4Runner. And he had a picture of this, and it was oily, just like the pictures that, or the prints that you've gotten, David, super oily. And he could not get that print off his truck for anything. He scrubbed it. I think Adolf didn't, I think he said that he sold his truck eventually. And that print was probably still on it. I mean, it stayed for a long time. And that print actually looked like something that might have been ET related. But I thought about you today, Adolf, because at that town hall that I was at, that print that Flat Rock has, that it was on his back porch or his front porch, it had a long thumb digit, just like your print had on your truck. Okay, so it was like long fingers, and then this weird thumb kind of came out to the side, and that's the same as Flat Rock's print of a Bigfoot. Okay, so I think it'd be cool to get David, that guy from the Bigfoot forensics, to analyze that print that you had, Adolf. I think that would be a great idea to do that. I think I've actually talked about that before. I forget. I'm really busy these days, and I forget. I say I'm going to do something, and I totally forget. I don't totally forget.
I know those prints there. They stayed on that pit toilet for about 6 months.
The outside toilet, 6 months. Do you think that anyone else noticed that might have been a Bigfoot? Any kind of passerbys that are normies that don't know that Bigfoots live out there?
I don't think so. I had a real funny encounter down there. It was what is the guy's name? The Bigfoot hunters.
Moneymaker?
No,
those guys?
No, the guy that was involved with the baloney Bigfoot in the freezer. What's his name?
Oh, Dyer. I don't know his last name. His last name's Dyer. Rick Dyer, maybe.
No, it's the other one.
Okay.
I can't think of his name. Anyway, they were camping there. It was funny. I'd never met him. My mind just went blank. But anyway, they've been camping for about seven or 10 days, and I went over to meet him because I hadn't. I've always heard all these stories about him. I had to meet the man, and he come up and he introduced himself and said he was the kingpin of Bigfoot, and I laughed at him and told him, I said, well, you may be kingpin of Bigfoot, but you're not kingpin of Uwharrie. I am. And he had these two hunters that he had hired, and he was paying them like $75,000 a year to hunt Bigfoot, and their trackers and everything. And I asked him, I said, you've been here 10 days. Have you found anything interesting? And he said, no, not really. I said, well, I'll give you a little bit of evidence. And he said, what are you talking about? And Mike Green was actually sitting there with him too. They were all sitting there talking. And I said, you've been here for 10 days. And I said, where you been going to the bathroom at? And he pointed. And I said, well, come here, I'll show you something. And we walked up there, and I pointed out those handprints to him. And he turned around and looked at his, he's got supposedly $75,000 a year Bigfoot hunters standing beside him. And he looks at it and he said, y'all didn't see this? I said, there, I'll give you that.
Little evidence.
So yeah, if those guys, they're paid for as professionals. If they don't see it, I doubt nobody else did.
Oh man, people get paid to do what we do. Man, that'd be something else, wouldn't it? Getting paid instead of us paying to get out there ourselves. But see, that's where people are like, well, that's where, I don't know. It doesn't make it any less important. Do you know what I mean? But then it's like, I don't know. We're not going to get on that subject tonight. Okay, let's not get on that subject. But anyways, that's wild. So they did not notice that. Well, I'm actually going to have a buddy of mine. We got Tree coming on, not Tree Hudson. We got Tree from Squatch Me Now coming on next Saturday night, and he's one of my resident experts on hoaxes. Okay, digital hoaxes. Any kind of videos that might not be real. If there's something that I question, if it's real or not. I've sent it over to him before to give me his analysis on it. Okay, like, because there's a lot of this AI stuff going on. It's hard to tell what's real and what's not these days with some of these videos that come out. And so he's coming on next Saturday. We're gonna kind of talk about his experiment that he did. Okay, because he has this media company. It costs a lot of money to make a realistic Bigfoot costume. Okay, a lot, but he's managed to do it somehow. Okay, and they have a costume that they use for documentaries, and they call it the Big Un. Okay, Big Un. He's got his own Instagram channel or Instagram page, and the Big Un official, I think. Shout out to those guys. And he's a tall guy, and talking about the obvious not being seen, they have actually gone out, and I think they're in, like, I want to say they're in North Carolina. They're in North Carolina, maybe even near Asheville. I can't remember exactly where they're located. But they've gone out and put him in the costume, this tall dude, in this costume on the side of the road, standing there for everybody to see, and nobody paid any attention to him. He stood there. I don't know if he was waving at people or what, but people would just drive right by and nobody would even look at him. Yep. And it was just wild. It's like he's right there, but nobody sees him.
Yeah, everybody pays attention to what's right in front of them. Same way with white-tailed deer or a bear. You'll never see them. If you start looking for them, you'll find them. They'll be standing on the side of the road all the time. But if you're not looking for them, you'll pass right by them. Same thing with Bigfoot.
I think that's the art of the camouflage there. It's just getting right outside of our line of eyesight. That's it. And that's what Lee taught us. Lee taught it up in North Georgia. We were doing, camo awareness classes and stuff. We kind of did a course up there. And he was teaching us. He would go out and hide, and we would have to try to track him down. Okay. And go find him. And sometimes all he would do, he could wear a red suit. He could wear something, blue, red, something that you think would stick out in the woods, right? But he would sit there and just put the hood on and tie it up tight with the rope, that comes out of the hood on your raincoat. And he would sit there on a log, just right off the trail, and we would walk right by him. And he's a big dude. And we wouldn't even see him. It was just really crazy. And you feel like a total doofus by the time you realize that you just walked past him. But he would just be sitting there, and it just showed all of us, it's just right outside. He knows that you're going to be looking over there because there's a tree stump with like something coming out of it. So you're not going to pay attention to him sitting right there. Okay. There's almost like a psychology behind it too, right?
Hey, I've been in Uwharrie and a Boy Scout troop come by, and I just step off to be 10 foot off the trail, just lean up against a tree, and I walk right past me and never know I'm there.
Oh yeah.
They're looking at the ground. They're not looking at either side of the trail. They're looking straight down or at their buddy's back, and they're oblivious to what's beside them.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's the way it is. That's the way it is in real life, and that's the way it is out. And I'm not saying it's not real life out in the woods. I'm just saying everyday normal life for the normies and stuff too. For all of us, we're just focused on, and most of us are looking down at our phones all the time too. Okay, so add that in too. But yeah, we're going to be talking about that next weekend on the show with Trey from Squatch Me Now. So that's going to be a good one. But yeah, so you've had so many experiences out there. I think the last time you came on the show, David, we actually showed that video of the little ET or the alien, the little person, whatever that is up there.
Yep.
And that was wild. I do have some still shots. I know there's probably a few people in here that missed that show and didn't get to see it. And you guys missed out on a fantastic video that David allowed me to show on the show that day. And it deals with this little alien creature right here. It's about a foot tall, 2 feet tall, maybe.
That one I think is about 3 foot. But going back before we get any further, Ed just posted in the comments it was Biscardi.
Got it.
Tom Biscardi was who I was running into down there with the handprint.
Oh, there's Ed. Okay, thank you, Ed. I've heard that name. Okay, very cool. Yes. Well, that's another thing.
That one there is about 30 inches tall.
Okay.
It's Tom Piscardi.
Okay, I was just going to go back to that a little bit because there's a lot of egos too, a little bit in the communities. We do this cryptid stuff, and I know we probably don't need to go down that route tonight either with that conversation, because it happens. Okay, and people, we all get very territorial over our territories, right? That, like, we research and stuff too. So and we I think some of us will get a little upset if people move in and want to do TV shows, and it kind of ruins our research areas. Okay, that's all. That's all. No shade to anybody. Okay.
Yeah,
but it happens though.
You know, and some people do Bigfooting right, and they can go out and do exactly what I do, and it causes no harm. But then you have 15 other people that go out there that they're doing is what they've seen on a TV show, which is exact opposite of what you're supposed to do. That's made for TV. They'll go out and do everything wrong, and that's all it takes, and it ruins an area. The Bigfoot, it don't take much.
That's true. Kent has an interesting point here. He says, better be careful running around the woods in a Bigfoot costume. The alpha may take a liking to you. You know what I mean? Well, actually, I'd be more worried about getting shot. Okay. Yeah. Anything that's out there. David Hewlett talked about that today during his presentation. He gave a fantastic presentation. He is actually based out of Alabama, but he's dealt with Bigfoot. He's experienced Bigfoots up in Pennsylvania and North Georgia, of all places. Of course, it's North Georgia. Probably, he said Blue Ridge is where he's had some encounters with Bigfoot. But he said that he got on the conversation about people dressing in a ghillie suit, because the people that he told about his Bigfoot experience, I guess they said no. They looked at the picture. He had a picture of one. They said, no, that's a man in a ghillie suit. And they were arguing with him about it. And he said, well, you would be crazy to wear a ghillie suit where that was. It's in the middle of hunting season, and pretty much anything that moves is going to get shot out there unless you got on an orange vest. And so that is the case quite often when it comes to Bigfooting. And you do not dress like a Bigfoot and go out in the woods. Okay, just don't. We're not going to find that.
Another Bigfoot knows what he's looking at. It's fake, and
yeah,
it's hard. It's going to be hard for somebody to fake it. People send me pictures all the time. What do you think? And immediately you know it's a costume. You look at the legs, the way the legs hang. If it's moving, a Bigfoot, when a Bigfoot is crossing a field or going through the forest, it's real smooth. It glides. It's like a black plastic bag blowing through the wind. There's no up and down to it. It's very smooth. Anytime I've ever seen anybody in a costume, they bounce, and it's hard to get that human gait out. Somebody would have to practice really hard to get that smooth motion that a Squatch makes. And most of the time they're on all four. They're not just, everybody thinks Bigfoot walks upright. Probably 50% of the time are on all four.
Yes. Those were the videos that Flat Rock showed us today at that Alabama town hall, Bigfoot town hall. They were a lot of the times they were actually on the ground crawling. You could tell. I mean, it's kind of creepy, and they have the Eyeshine, the eye glow. They're not even shine; it's glow. So they had the glowing eyes, and you could see a difference. There's actually a picture of him and his preacher standing outside in front of his house, and they were facing the camera. They did not know that there was a Bigfoot behind them. And so you can see the comparison of them turning around talking, facing their house, with a Bigfoot in the tree line right behind him. And the eyes are spaced out. So, like, here's my human face, right? Behind him, there's something that has eyes that are like this. I mean, they're like, it would be like here and here on my head. Like, I can't. Everything's backwards when I'm looking at. But it was the space where the eyes were like this. Okay, he said it's like an 8-foot tall Bigfoot. He said it was behind him, and Flat Rock's pretty tall. These guys are about 6 feet or so. And this thing had to have been 8 feet, but you could just tell by the width of like the space between the two eyes. These things are gigantic. Standing up, and but the crawling is really creepy, David. And the fact that they just stalk his home all the time and just sit there and watch, it's like their entertainment.
Yeah, it's their TV.
It's their TV. I know. I don't know. I would have to have some heavy curtains on my windows. Okay. I would have to have some heavy curtains. But
and I've done investigations with people that are having the same thing happen, and it can get pretty terrifying for somebody. Even if they finally figure out what they're dealing with, it still creeps you out that these things are looking in your windows. They're watching your every move. They know when you're coming home. They know when you arrive. They know when you take your garbage out. A lot of times they're probably standing 10 foot away from you when you set the garbage out, and they're in it before you get back in the house.
They're forest ninjas. That's what Alan Thomas calls them, the forest ninjas. And he's not wrong. He's not wrong.
And you don't know, you get close to them, and like you almost step on one, or back in the BFRO days, there was a guy who went out to relieve himself from the campfire, and he was actually urinating on one's leg. It knows to stand perfectly still, and all it did was just make 2 steps to the side to get out of the stream.
Oh my gosh!
It didn't take off running. It knows. It just kind of steps aside.
I'd be like, that's what you get for standing there spying on us, Bigfoot. You get peed on, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, we were in West Virginia, and we had one come up on a guy, and he was using night vision, and he had his red headlamp on, and this was back in 2006, and he was actually scanning around the forest. And when you're using night vision, whenever you get close to a tree or some solid structure, the IR will bounce back and just white out the whole screen. Well, his screen kept whiting out, and come to find out, the girl that was standing behind him told him, said, every time you passed that, what you thought was a tree, you were looking at the chest of a squatch. And when that red headlamp hit him in the face, all he did was drop his head down. He never moved, and he was 3 foot from it, and it knew to stand there perfectly still.
Wow. I
mean, stealthy.
I think us as humans, Caleb J's in the chat. What's up, Caleb? And Caleb had mentioned something about sniper school, and that's kind of like compared to the movements that snipers have to learn, and just having to be really still for a long time. And a lot of humans these days, we don't have the patience to do that. Okay, not everybody. It takes a very special person with a lot of patience to be able to do that, just to stand there. But that's part of their camouflage, I would assume, and the fact that people are not expecting to see a being that's that big out there. The normal person out, us researchers are kind of taught to look up, right? Look up, think outside the box too when it comes to this. But the normal, average, everyday human is not expecting to see a 9 foot tall creature that looks like a hairy human out there. So they are going to walk right past it.
And it's not just Bigfoot, it's bear, it's deer.
Yeah.
If a deer is standing in the forest, unless it moves, you're not going to see it unless you're looking directly at it. As long as it stays still, you won't see it. Same way with a bear. A bear is black, but he just blends perfectly in with the environment. Unless you're like me and you're colorblind and you see things differently. But yeah, they're good at what they do.
Sovereign Cosmic Wildman says, Squatches be standing with notepads, taking notes on all your movements, getting familiar with all your movement patterns so they know when to move around your movements unnoticed. Man, that's a mouthful, but that's true. I could get on board with that. What do you think, David? Do they watch us so they can move like us?
Yeah, they know our movements. I mean, that's how they're able to hide from us. They almost can predict what we're going to do next, just by our everyday motions and actions. We're creatures of habit. Cats are the same way. Cats will leave a path in your yard. If they're going from one house to the next, if you have a cat population like I do here, they have certain paths they go on. And we do the same thing. When we go to the mailbox, we go the same way just about every single time. If you go into the inner city and high density populations, people will take a path. They don't never deviate away from that path. They always go the same way every single time. And that's one of the things with going back to Uwharrie. Whenever we first started researching there, we were doing opposite of the normal. We weren't using the normal trails like everybody else that would come there. We were just walking out into the forest. So we were so unpredictable. They started marking the areas that we were going into the forest, so they knew that was a possibility of where we may enter the forest next. So they wouldn't they wouldn't hide out that area. So that was one of the first things I figured out. They're pretty smart. They know you're in the woods before you know you're in the woods.
Yeah, creatures of habit, right? Creatures of habit and very observant. If they're sitting there staring, just from Flat Rock's testimony alone, okay, with his haunt, his videos, the recordings that he has, even his dogs are familiar with the Bigfoots. And they were, and Phil, I think Phyllis was telling me today that she and John had been out there, and at Flat Rock's property, and they said that the dogs, he's got several dogs out there. This is in the middle of Alabama. Okay, he lives down in, I think it's like South Alabama. But they said the dogs don't bark or react to anybody. But when the Bigfoots come around, they react. Okay, so anybody else could be there. The dogs don't bark. Somebody pulls up, the dogs don't bark. But when the Bigfoots are around, they freeze up and they start acting crazy. I don't want to say crazy. I'm not calling them crazy, but they start acting different. And so that's how they know that the Bigfoots are there.
Yep. I've been out there, and not long ago, I was out there with Victoria and Johnny Jackson, and they had their dog Cowboy with them, and we didn't hear anything, we didn't see anything, but all of a sudden the dog started alerting, and I picked up my thermal, had it on a tripod, I set it there, and you see the heat signature. So then I pick up my night vision and start taking shots. Well, it wasn't a Bigfoot I got a picture of. It was this tall alien insect, like a mantis type creature that I caught peeking out around a tree at us. But the dog alerted to it. If I hadn't been for the dog, we'd have never known it was there.
Mm-hmm. Animals know, they pick up on stuff like that. Hey, Barry Littleton's in the chat. He says that heavy oil on those Sasquatch hand and fingerprints shows they're capable of thin film interference, which can aid in invisibility, like cloaking. David, have you ever come across a Bigfoot or any kind of creature in the woods that seemed to be cloaked?
I've had them cloak from being completely invisible. You could only see it with thermal. And you showed one of the pictures earlier of one of the alien type reptilian little 30-inch tall guys peeking out around a tree. Those you couldn't see with the human eye. They were completely invisible to us. But they picked up on thermal. And then in that same general area, myself and David Moser and Ed Peters is in the chat, or he was there. We had something run past us so fast that it is translucent to the thermal. And we called it the cloaking Bigfoot for a while, and then it turned into the runner. Yeah, that one you got on the screen right now. You couldn't see that with the naked eye, and it was 25 feet from us. So, and I got almost 2 hours of footage of that event, and there were three different creatures or entities there staring there watching us, and you couldn't see it, but it was plainly on thermal. And just like the Meadow Project, the portal or apparition, whatever you want to call it, you couldn't see it with a naked eye, but it was there on thermal. So
Wow.
these things, the cryptids, some of them, and I'm not so sure that Bigfoot, you know, they have some ability to cloak.
Mhm.
There's other stuff out there I definitely know it can, and I'm pretty sure some of the things we think are Bigfoot. I don't know if you've ever experienced it, Jessica. You're out in the middle of the national forest. It's pitch black. You can't see your hand in front of your face, and all of a sudden you see something that looks like a camera flash go off.
Mhm.
You can never see the source of the light. It's always behind a bush or always coming out from behind a tree, but it'll light the tops of the trees up. And then all of a sudden you start having Bigfoot activity. You hear walking, you hear sticks breaking, you get rocks thrown at you, and then it just shuts down. And it you never heard it leave. You never heard it come and go. Is it going? Is it going from a physical form to a non-physical form, or is it going in and out of a portal? There for a long time, I thought that wood knocks we were hearing in the woods were actually portals opening up, and there was a transfer of cold air hitting hot air, just like thunder and lightning.
Mhm.
And I run that through my head a few times, and I don't know. I know they can disappear in the thin air.
Well, a long time ago, I had Keith on my show. Okay, Keith, I can't get him back on. He's got to come back on. So if you see Keith, you tell him he's got to come back on the show sometime. But he came on a while back. I think he was on Spaced Out Radio, and he's one of our teammates. He's a wildlife biologist. Okay, and Keith knows he's the go-to person when you got a question about like an animal sound or some kind of plant vegetation out there. He can identify everything. And
Yeah.
he's also my Bigfoot burrito friend who I put my tent by his hammock. So Bigfoots will go for him first if they were to come and attack us because they like Bigfoot burritos. But anyways, I digress. So Keith was sleeping one night in his hammock out in the field. We were out there doing a weekend excursion, right? Up in North Georgia. And he said that he sleeps lightly out there. And he kind of has to sleeping in his hammock. Okay. But he was in his hammock. He had a tarp over it, I think. And he said he woke up in the middle of the night and to a flash of light. And he said there was a flash of light, and then he heard footsteps, just like you just described, David. He heard footsteps, and I believe he saw another. From what I can recall, I think he saw another flashlight, and the footsteps never came back. So in his mind, he was thinking, well, could that have been like a portal opening, and something came out of it, and then it went back in and closed it? I mean, that it's exactly what you just described.
I may have been with him on that trip.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
think I know which one he's talking about. Yeah, that
Oh,
was
yeah.
a weird night. If it's the same one I'm thinking about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So these weird things happen. We don't really know what it is, but we can assume it could have been some kind of portal opening. But yeah,
Yeah,
very, yeah. Go ahead.
15 years ago, I would have said no, but
Right.
the things that I've witnessed and encountered and experienced in the last 10 years, anything's possible. It's mind boggling.
It is. Hey, Greg Ogles. Greg Ogles is in the chat. What's up, bud? Thank you for being here tonight. Adolf says, I once saw a black colored Bigfoot standing next to a fence post about 50 yards away in a cow pasture. I kept looking at it because it looked out of place, thinking it was ivy growing on a post. I took a drink of water, turned my head away from it. I looked back and it was gone. Oh, man. Well, maybe that wasn't a fence post. Okay, probably not. It sounds like adaptive camouflage to me, or some kind of camouflage, maybe. So that's really interesting. We've got a lot of comments tonight here. Yeah. And thank you for being here, Barry. I'm glad you guys are here too. All right, let me take that down. Yeah, okay, so you mentioned cloaking. Now, I think the first time that I ever had any kind of Bigfoot experience, which might have been Bigfoot, it might not have been, was up in North Georgia. And I talk about this a lot when I give a presentation because it was my introduction into Bigfooting. And something ran up behind me. I thought it was one of the guys. And I thought they were playing a trick on me. and something like swept the back of my legs and it kept running past me, David. There was nothing there. It didn't pick up on thermal or FLIR. So my question to you is, you said that and I've seen that video that you have, it looks like the Predator. Okay, something, it was bipedal, it looked like a human almost, but it was like a Bigfoot running through you call it the cloaked Bigfoot video. You were able to pick that up on FLIR or thermal. Well, those guys that were watching me at the bottom of the hill, they didn't see anything. So it makes me question, well, maybe what happened to me was not a cloaked Bigfoot if nobody picked it up in their FLIRs or their thermals. What would you think?
The cloaked Bigfoot, that was actually David Moser was the one using the thermal that night. But that was the same thermal unit that got the other ones later on. I heard it run and I thought it was a rabbit. And if you watch the video, you see I'm up ahead of him and you actually see me turn to the right and scan to the right. And I was looking for the rabbit that was running, but it wasn't a rabbit. I mean, that's how fast it was moving. Its feet were moving up and down so fast that it shot past us. And hadn't it been for that little bit of noise, we would have never had to think to go back and review the footage to see what actually run past us. And if it wanted to get us, whatever that was, could have got all of us at one time, and we would have never even known we were got. That's how fast it was moving.
Well, it's good. It's good to let people know. Okay. And yes, Ed actually said the new term taught to us by Jessica, Glimmer Man. Okay. I did a show on Glimmer Man a couple of weeks ago, and that's very similar to what you're describing. And actually, David, I did some research into all of this, like in cloaking and technology. Okay. Because I look at it as like, well, yeah, we have cloaked Bigfoots out there, but what can humans do? What kind of technology do humans have? Let's say like super soldiers or some kind of like black ops, special agency, hush hush programs, out in the field, in relation to even all these missing people in our national parks and stuff. How are they going missing? Could someone wear an invisibility suit and grab people and take them away? That kind of stuff. And is that what we're seeing out there? I mean, I think that's a pretty valid question when it comes to like what we're doing now. In the case of that thing that you guys saw, it was moving too fast to be a human. So it couldn't have been that. But in some cases, I think it could be humans out there wearing invisibility suits potentially.
It's possible. And I know that, before we ever went public and talked about that video, we went down and done reenactments. We tried to retrace the exact steps, get a height, speed, everything. Ed Peters is in the chat, and I think Ed helped do one of the recreation videos. We couldn't come nowhere close to the speed of this individual, no matter how fast you thought you can run. This was just like a blur. You've seen the video. You see how fast it moves. If it was we thought, well, the military does train in this area. The special forces, they do utilize the area for training. And, that thought did go through our mind. Were we dealing with something, that's top secret and they're out here, training?
Testing. Yeah,
training. Run up on them and we caught a glimpse of it. But it was moving way too fast than a human could possibly move.
Well, you know what? There's this topic too. I mean, let's go ahead and talk about it because there are super soldiers being created. And I'm sure they've got all the land out in these national parks to test whatever they've created. Somebody sent me a video the other day of it's like a bionic man. He had prosthetic legs, he had a prosthetic leg, and it was metallic. And I thought this I thought this clip was AI, but the person who sent it to me said, no, this is real. And the guy kicked a barrel, and this barrel went crashing into a wall and it broke the wall. And it was way superhuman. It was something out of a Marvel movie. And like I said, I thought it was AI, but he said no, it was real. So there's a lot of stuff that we don't know, we don't understand. There's a lot of things that have been tested. I think a national park or a state park, like places where we do some Bigfooting, would be a perfect place for them to go test those things. Just saying. So I don't know, but there's also Bigfoots out there doing this stuff too. But maybe they're just, we just gotta. I keep an open mind about it, I guess. And it's also terrifying, David. It's terrifying thinking about all the things that are out there that we have to look out for. Barry's bringing up the portal and tree connection. Okay, I don't know if you talked to Tony Green. Tony's been on the show. Tony, have you talked to Tony about his uncle?
Yeah.
Okay, the one that went behind the tree.
Yeah, he told that he shared that story with us one night around a campfire.
Yeah, his uncle ran out behind, and he went behind a tree, and he came out a dog the other side, or a dog came out of the other side and ran off into the woods. So that's something else. They were talking about the Bigfoot town hall today was kind of like portals and trees. I think it was there, trees and portals. It was somewhere, maybe. Oh no, it was last night on Mark and Rebecca Green's live. That's what it was. They were talking about trees being portals and stuff. So people are talking about it. I'm so happy that the conversations are out there. People are talking about it, and I think it's very important that we do talk about that. I did also want to talk tonight, David, about cursed lands. Okay, because the places where we go, some people say that the cryptids are out there because the land has been cursed and because they have been summoned there. And that's why there are dogmen at some of these places, like the Indian burial mounds. There are Bigfoots in some places guarding the lands, dogmen guarding cemeteries. I would assume that Uwharrie has a rich history of like Native American culture out there, and just a rich history. And do you ever think that maybe that land could be cursed out there in some kind of way, and maybe that's why those Bigfoots are out there?
It's possible. I know there's I don't know the name of the author, but the book is Ghost Stories or Hauntings of Uwharrie. And in one of the stories, it talks about a witch. This goes back, I guess 1700s or so. And they talk about a witch, and she was very protective of her land, and she would throw rocks at people. Well, now the ghost story is, or the legend is, if you're in the woods in Uwharrie and you have rocks thrown at you, it's this witch, and it's her ghost throwing rocks at you. Well, that's perfect Bigfoot behavior. But, there's a lot of stories in there, and a rich Native American history. There's Indian mounds right down the road, not too far away. And, it's just a hodgepodge of strangeness in that whole area. Gold mines, different mines. One of the only time, one or two times I think that the United States military lost a nuclear weapon was in a plane crash in Uwharrie, close to Uwharrie.
No way.
Yeah. And that area, from what I understand, I've never been able to go to it, but that area has like a 6-foot chain link fence that still surrounds the crash site area. For whatever reason, I have no idea. I did talk to a guy who was he was a youngster when that plane went over and crashed. It went right over the top of their house, and they were some of the first ones to get out there where the pilots were. And that happened right there. So there's a lot of weird stuff that's, Baden Lake is right there in Uwharrie, and there's I think it's a bomber that's in the lake that goes, I don't know how long ago they lost it in transport and it crashed in the lake. I think it's a bomber.
What? That's wild. Like a big airplane, like a B-52 or something.
Yeah,
wow.
I can't remember what it was. I think the one that crashed with the nuclear weapon, I think that was a B-52, I believe. But the other with the plane that's in the lake, I can't remember what it was, whether it was a fighter jet or Ed Peters is in the chat. He may know. I can't remember.
Wow. I mean, you don't just, it's kind of hard just to lose a bomber like that. Yep. It's weird. That's wild. So a lot of strange things go on there. We know it's an area of high strangeness. Cryptidville has a great point because his main research area is up at the land between the lakes in Kentucky. And there's a good bit of occult activity going on up there. Is there any cult activity in Uwharrie?
I've heard stories. There was one famous landmark for us. We called it the A-frame. And there was actually a murder that happened there. And I think it was a drug deal gone wrong, but people said that they would go there and have satanic rituals and stuff, but the guy was killed there, and then they burnt the A-frame down. So that's like that last picture that we talked about on your show back in December 27th, I think it was. That's probably half a mile from where that happened.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, so there's cult activity going on in a couple of these national parks, probably all of them for all I know. I don't know. That just adds a whole new element to it too, because when people are out there doing rituals and stuff, I mean, that's to open, I would assume it's to open up portals, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of people go there to commit suicide too.
Oh, they do. Whoa. Well, that's similar to that battlefield. There's that battlefield up in North Georgia at Chickamauga, and it's a hot spot for self-deletions. Okay, suicides. People go there. Greg came on the show. Greg Smith. He is a Bigfoot and cryptid field researcher he lives in Chickamauga, and met him at the East Tennessee Bigfoot event, and he came on the show and talked about old green eyes up there, and said that it continues to this day. There's still people going up there to, end it in their lives up there, and a lot of them jump off that tower. Of all things, there's like a tower on the battlefield, so they have to lock the gates at night now because people were going up there to jump off of it, and it's really odd. It makes me wonder, is there some kind of energy that's kind of luring people in there because the land needs blood? I remember when I remote viewed that, I think it was Corpsewood Manor, which is right down the road from there. I kept hearing when I was remote viewing whatever that target was. I didn't know what it was. I kept hearing the land requires blood. It requires blood. And so I think places like this where there's a lot of bloodshed, battlefields where tens of thousands of people died, it's just a place where it kind of requires blood. So it's almost like a beacon for, luring people in to go do that kind of stuff there.
And most of those people that off themselves, they're demon possessed. They would, if they were in the right mind, they wouldn't do it. And it's just it's like it's an evil spirit. It's an evil, it's demonic, and it requires a blood sacrifice.
Oh wow, yeah, this can get deep, y'all. Okay, David, this gets deep. This got deep quick. Okay, because when it comes to cursed lands and things like that, I mean, it makes you wonder why are so many people going there to do these kind of acts? And unaliving themselves, self-deletion, whatever you want to call it. What's drawing them in?
Evil. It's just
evil.
Demonic. It's taking it. The demons are bringing it, as many as they can into their fold, and they keep feeding upon it.
Yeah, I was going to ask you tonight. I mean, it seems as though we are living in the revelations, right? Like some of the stories of. Like, I don't want to say the apocalypse and stuff. I mean, I'm having a great time. My life is pretty good. Okay. So I'm not, I try to keep on the sunny side and I don't try to look at all the negative, but I think hopefully things will be getting better here soon for everybody, for the whole world. But right now things are kind of wild, right, David? Things are kind of wild, and the cryptids are out running wild for everybody to see. What do you think is going on right now? Are these the end times?
My personal opinion, I think we're in them, or we're rapidly approaching them.
Yeah,
it's some of the stuff you hear and see is like, it's beyond belief. Some of the stuff that's going on, and stuff that's coming to light. It's been hidden for a long time. Is starting to come to the surface, and that's just straight up as evil, demonic as you can get.
Yeah. 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 Well, I don't know. I just have when I get a bad feeling about a place, like I don't ever want to go back to Courtswood Manor. I really don't care to ever go back there. There's something really dark about that place. And so I really don't want to go places like that that had a lot of death and violence and stuff. Like it's just not my thing. It's just not my thing. But going back to the cursed lands and the potential of cryptids being summoned there to protect the land at all costs. I often wonder if places like Uwharrie, the places that I go, the national parks and state parks, even around Georgia, those lands were kind of taken over. I got to assume it was like a big old land grab back in the day, right? Under like Teddy Roosevelt when he decided to start all these national parks and stuff. And I think that probably made some people mad. And maybe that's why the cryptids are there. I don't know.
Yeah, it's like one of the places. I think it was the last outing we went on with Grumpy, and we're out there, and you hear your name. Something calling Jessica out into the woods. You hear your name. What's trying to draw you out there?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty weird area too. It was an old homestead, a lot of open wells, and
oh yeah. Oh, you're talking about the Troop Herd Corridor place, though. We have that place. Well, the place where I didn't hear my name. I heard my voice yell out time travel.
Yeah.
That was at the Meadow. That was a different place.
No, this was another one we were with Grumpy. And something was
did I hear my
we were out there. That's where Ben had his first sighting out there.
Yes. My son had his first Bigfoot sighting.
Something kept calling Jessica out in the woods.
I think I had forgotten about that. Ew, how did I forget about that? I must have completely wiped that from my mind because I'd forgotten about that. Oh, yeah. Did Kristen hear her name too? It feels like Kristen might have heard her name out there. There's just a lot of weird stuff that goes on out in these woods, and you never know what you're going to get. But we hear things about like mimics, and dare I say, like, I hate saying this word, but skinwalkers, there's just a whole lot of tricksters out there, trickster spirits that will lure you off the trail and right into their lair, whatever that is. We just don't go. If you hear your own voice out there, go the other way. Okay. Like don't keep walking towards it and try to figure out what it is. It's not good.
The last show I did with you, that white, the thing, with the white face.
Yeah.
I got a photo of during the daytime. It's not a Bigfoot. Is it a trickster or is it a shapeshifter or something? That's in that same area. And it's the little alien dude showed up 20 minutes later. Same spot. So you got all this stuff running together.
Yes. Kent says the Earth is like Swiss cheese with all the portals. Yeah, I think there are a lot of portals, a lot of natural portals, and probably man-made portals for all we know, or alien-made. I don't know. Barry's given me several targets. I've had several targets. I know Barry gave me that one about Earth's weaponized natural portals, and we did a show on that. So if you guys want to go back and watch any of the shows that I've done on portals, that's really cool. And somebody had mentioned Tony Merkel earlier in the chat. I saw that, saying that his ears perk up when he hears portals. Tony came out to the Meadow actually and filmed a little documentary a while back. But before that, he had me on his show and we were just talking. He had not, titled the show yet or anything. And when he put it out to the public, he titled it Weaponized Portals because that was one of the main things we talked about. And I think that's a conversation that people need to start having, is that we have portals out there. These things are real. David, you actually are the one person who spotted the portal at the Meadow. And everything went downhill from there. I'm just kidding. It did. It really did.
There's more to it that I don't think it was meant to be seen. Me and you've had that that discussion privately, but I don't think it was meant to be put out there into the wilds.
It might not have been. It might not have been. Greg Ogles he has actually seen a portal, and he says in the chat right now, says he's talking to Sovereign. It says, when I briefly looked into the portal, I actually saw into somewhere that was daylight. It was in the middle of the night where I was. Oh my gosh, that's wild. It makes sense though, and I've seen videos, and I don't know if it's AI or not, of like portals opening up, people having these little devices that will open up a portal in their bedroom or open up a portal wherever this device is, and it's maybe nighttime at their house, but wherever the portal opens. I think they were saying it was in Sedona or something, and it was a daytime.
Have you seen the new videos on the drones on TikTok? And it looks like a plasma cloud in the sky, and something drops out of it, and then it just kind of comes back up on itself, and eventually it completely disappears. But it drops something out of it.
Uh-oh. Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. That's like, sounds like a little warfare going on there. So yeah, watch the skies. Okay, watch the skies. Barry had given me, was it Barry? I don't know. Barry and I did a show on the plasmoids, all these orbs that are showing up all over the place. Orbs and drones. Drones was a separate target, but we did shows on those recently. And yeah, I don't know what's going on out there, David. I don't know what's going on, but I don't know. It's a wild time to be alive. I do know that much right now. And let's see. Forbidden Planet says they used to talk about that portal above the White House, portal to hell. What? I haven't heard of that, but I know they've had UFOs flying over the White House before, back in the 1950s, and probably today too. They got drones over it, from what I heard.
Yeah, that was back when Eisenhower was president, I believe, when that happened.
Yes. Speaking of which, I am going to have Laura Eisenhower on the show sometime soon. She is the great granddaughter of President Eisenhower. That's going to be a really good conversation. So I will be reaching out to her this week, see if she wants to join me on the show sometime soon. I got to hang out with her down in Florida last year, so we need to have these discussions. I think it's really cool that, David, you and I, we're Bigfoot researchers at heart, and that's our main base. But you and I have had so many other experiences with other creatures, and UFOs and portals and all that kind of stuff. So, I mean, is this typical now for researchers, do you think, to go into Bigfooting and then expanding into other stuff? Or, I mean, or are we just kind of not typical? What do you think?
There for the longest time, you were a Bigfooter and strictly Bigfoot. A few of the guys and gals, they went off ghost hunting and stuff like that. I always try to steer a ghost. I'm chicken of ghost. And then you had your UFO people, that chased UFOs and aliens and stuff. And we never mixed the two. And now it seems like whether we're wanting to mix it or not, it's mixing itself. And it's for me, I'm running into more, we'll call it alien or UFO type stuff more than I am Bigfoot. And then some of the stuff that I'm having happen in the last, say, 3-4 years, I'm tying it into past Bigfoot experiences. And I look back on it, and I don't think I was actually dealing with a Bigfoot back then. I thought I was. But after I take that information and apply it to what I know now, maybe back then I was dealing with this other entity, whatever you want to call it, alien, dimensional beings. Maybe all along that's what we've been dealing. A lot of what we think is Bigfoot activity is this other thing, and they're running out there side by side. And are they researching Bigfoot just like we are? Who knows? but
I
it's
mean,
more
maybe.
prevalent now. And with me anyway, I'm running into more of the weird off the wall stuff besides Bigfoot. I'm my heart's with Bigfoot, and I love Bigfoot, and that's where all my knowledge and everything's at. And this other stuff, I'm having to relearn and rediscover, and it's amazing.
Yeah. Well, at least you have an open mind, and you're open to it, because I think a lot of people might not be so open to it. I was taught early on in the game, once you get out into, looking into Bigfoot, sometimes people, you get into it and everything that you go out in the woods and you hear or you see is a Bigfoot in your mind. You go looking for a UFO, well, everything's going to be a UFO. Okay.
Yep.
And so you got to think outside the box. Not everything is what you think it is by any means. So,
Yeah, I've got a whole theory on Eyeshine and the difference between the two, and that's kind of where I've come to where I'm at now, and that's a whole nother. It's just it explains a lot with Bigfoot.
Can I ask you what that is? Because in my mind, I'm thinking it has something to do with the demonic. Does it or no?
Yeah, in a way, or this alien or extra dimensional, whatever you want to call it. I've had encounters in the past. I've never, and I think I've got a lot of experiences under my belt. Every experience I ever talk to you about or talk about, there was other people there with me to witness it right alongside me. Anything that I've experienced that I did not have a witness and I've just seen it with my own eyes, I don't talk about it unless I have a photograph of it. But I've had so much stuff happen to me. I've never been able to physically see Eyeshine on a Bigfoot unless I had an artificial light source was shining on it, causing its eyes to shine. I've had numerous encounters with Eyeshine. In one incident, it actually charged us, and it come up on us within 7-8 feet. And out of one eye, I'm looking with my natural eye, looking at it, and I see, this reddish color coming at me. My color red is actually a brown, but it's red. But I'm looking through the other eye with night vision, and all I can see, the eye shine's not showing up like it should. And you just see the brush parting. It's invisible, but you can see it. But you can't place a body with that eye shine, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
You see the eye shine, but there's no body form to it. You just see the eyes. And that's happened a number of times with me, and these things just disappear, And then there's other times that I've seen Bigfoot Eyeshine, but it's like the when we first started talking at the beginning of the night, the one with me and Don Tartan is standing behind his car. You can see his eyeshine, but it had a big fire. It's the eyes were being illuminated by that big fire we had, and a lantern, So I've experienced Bigfoot or Eyeshine out in the woods, with no artificial light whatsoever shining on it. And you just see, one of the last incidents I had, it was 3 sets of eyes glowing at me. But when you look at it with night vision or thermal, you can't pick it up. It's not there. And it should plainly show up, but it doesn't. What are we looking at in that incident? What is it?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, if it's a flesh and blood creature standing out there looking at you, and you're looking at all 3 eyes shining at you, looking at you, and you throw a thermal up on them, and you should plainly be able to see it with the thermal. It's a clear line of sight. There's nothing on thermal, and there's nothing. And when you throw a night vision equipment up to look at it, those 6 sets of 6 eyes shining at you should plainly show up when you're looking at it with a light sensitive device like night vision, and it doesn't show up. Why? That's something there that's splitting the veil. It's there and it's not there. You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
I
and
mean, that's the only way I can explain it. if you can't physically see it with a piece of equipment, all you can see the eyes. But even the eyes, they shouldn't be able to mask from the night vision you're using.
It doesn't make any sense. And, you know, watching those videos of flat rocks today, when you said that maybe they could even be extraterrestrial or something, it actually makes sense when you see those videos that he has.
Yeah. Can you see
they're not of this earth. They don't look, they're of this world.
Or on those videos, can you match a body to those eyes? Even just a,
Yeah,
a dark form.
some of them. Yeah, you can actually. You can.
Okay. He's probably dealing with a Bigfoot.
They're Bigfoots for sure. Yes. They're definitely Bigfoots.
Say you're looking at that same video, but you can't see a body form, even just a dark shape.
Whoa. That's wild.
It's just two eyes shining in the woods or on the edge of your property line. I went and done an investigation here in North Carolina up close to Hanging Rock, and it's the same thing. Plainly I could see Eyeshine looking at me through the brush. You throw the camera up there, and all you see is the eyes. I picked the entity up. It looks like a gecko head sticking out of the brush. It's big, but his eyes are jet black.
Gecko, huh?
It could have been glowing white, on the night vision.
Oh my gosh! So like a reptilian there.
Yeah,
which is really crazy. You get calls to go and investigate things. You've investigated a lot of properties over the years. What is the wildest call you've ever gotten? Is that it, or I mean, I'm so curious because you've had so many different things, but on somebody else's property or somebody that called you out to go investigate something.
I won't use a name because the person is very well known. They're in the Bigfooting community, and they called me out to do the investigation on their property because they wanted somebody neutral to what was going on and not just what they were thinking and seeing. So they wanted somebody else to come out and more or less verify what they think they were dealing with. And that one was actually calling the person by name and asking them to come back outside.
Oh,
But it wasn't what I got on film, and I can't share that film because that's a private investigation, and I was told not to share the video, but I can describe it. That one looks like a mythical fawn. The little goat man with the little horns. That's what it looks like to me.
I too have seen potentially a goat man in a video from a game trail, a trail cam.
This one actually come off of my night vision.
Greg says nope.
And I spent a couple days there. And by the second night, I had it on video. I believe it was the second night I stayed on the property. I got it on video. But I took everything that I was seeing, the sign, where things were happening, and I put it all together. And I set up my camera in a certain way that was hidden, and I got it sticking his head out from around the barn. And it's video, not a picture. It's video.
Oh man, maybe one day I can see that. That would be so cool. That's wild. That's super wild. Greg Ogle says, David, I have on film eyes without a form. So Greg has that on film too.
Yeah, he's dealing with this alien stuff or demonic. I think they're all demonic. I think they're fallen angels, basically, is what we're dealing with on that.
The Nephilim?
Yep.
Is that what that is? Okay. Well, a lot of people think that, David. A lot of people do.
And they're here to deceive us.
Yeah. Wow.
And what better way to deceive you from the creator than, you were created by something else or you come from something else. And
wow. Well, I did ask, are we in the end times? Okay. I did ask you that. And yeah, that's it's a pretty common opinion for a lot of people to have about that. And we do have another question in the chat. Johnny Medic Bigfoot says, I found a pair of 17-inch prints in 2020. How tall do you reckon that creature was? David, how tall do you think that was?
17-inch.
17, yes.
9 feet.
9 feet?
8,
Wow.
9 feet.
Yeah, that's pretty big. I was at the store the other day. I was at one of the store that I like to go in, and they had these shoes there. They had these shoes. They had men's shoes there. They had size 20 Adidas shoes, size 22 shoes. And I picked it up and I was showing Ben, showing my son. It was literally huge. Okay, like just huge. And I thought I had on the same shoe. I had on the same Adidas shoe on my foot. And this one was double the size of mine. I wear a 10 or 11. Or
But
20.
the secret is, how
Yeah.
wide was it at the ball of the foot?
That's right. So Johnny, I was
It's
wondering
pretty
too.
narrow in comparison to how long it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if it was a Squatch, a 22 is what, at least 16 inches, probably in length, close, thereabouts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it would probably be 8 or 9 inches wide at the ball.
Golly, that's huge. Yeah, well, these shoes are more like just slender and human, like a basketball player would wear, basically. But yeah, it was still a big shoe. I couldn't believe how big it was. I was like, that's 20 inches. A Bigfoot casting of something that's like 20 inches or bigger. I mean, it's gigantic and it's wide, but these are still big shoes, though. I mean, like way too big for, regular humans, I guess. But that's probably why they were at this store. It was like one of those, what do you call them? Like an overflow store or like a salvage store or something. They have really good camping equipment there. So I love going and checking out whatever kind of it's an overstock store. That's what it is. Overstock. So
I've got some castings from Sanford, North Carolina, that were taken back in the early 70s of a 3-toed creature. And this is one cast out of there were hundreds of tracks, and the witnesses to this, they didn't have anything to cast it with, so they cast it in the lead. And I think they weigh 37 pounds, just one cast. It's huge. But I've seen some big ones.
Johnny says that it was 8.5 inches wide. So that 17-inch print. That's huge.
Yep.
My God. That's really big.
And Jeff Melbourne has a calculation that he uses. He won't share it, but he can just about tell you how big something, the length of a track versus the width.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty accurate. But and I kind of figured up in my head, after seeing so many, how a big track versus small tracks. Even a 14-inch track for us is about 6 inches wide at the ball. I mean, at the heel. I mean, the ball. It's wide.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Greg says, I think he's talking about the eyes that were detached from a body. Just had eyes. Said it threw a rock. It was cold on thermal, but its eyes were glowing on full spectrum camera. He says.
Yep.
So it threw that pair of eyes threw a rock. That's wild. That is so wild. I mean, we have the weirdest stuff that happens out there. It's absolutely crazy.
With thermal, I mean, I've seen Bigfoot through thermal so many times. I've forgotten half the encounters with thermal, but a lot of times when you see them, a Bigfoot's not glowing white hot. Like, if you're looking at a human being walking out through the woods, most of the time they're white hot, especially in the summertime. If you've got a jacket on, then the jacket will insulate the body heat, and it'll have a toned down. It won't be bright white. A lot of times when you're looking at a Squatch with thermal, he's not bright white. If he's been sitting still for a length of time, the hair is so well at insulating the body that it actually masks the body heat. And he looks like a gray, he's gray in form when you're using the black and white color palette. He's the same color as the trees, but around the face and between the legs, at the armpits, and sometimes the chest, it'll be white. It'll be brighter white. but that's just in their everyday movements and walking, and the hair rubs off just like it does on humans, and there's less hair there, so there's more thermal heat to come through for that thermal to pick up, and then but the eyes, that's hard to, unless they close their eyes, it's going to show up. But he's using full spectrum, so who knows? That's one piece of gear that I've started using once all this weird stuff started happening. I got a full spectrum camera and started using that.
That's smart. That's what ghost hunters use and stuff too. I've seen ghost hunters use those on those shows.
You're just picking up another wavelength of light is basically all you're doing. And we can't see that with our eyesight. So you gotta, that helps. See something that may be invisible, but with a full spectrum, you can see it.
Oh yeah. I love this conversation tonight. This has been amazing. I wanted to pull this one. I had this comment up a while ago. This is interesting. Gordon says the largest contributor to cryptid sightings is the maned wolf. David, have you ever seen, I don't know if I've ever asked you that. Have you ever encountered a dog man before?
No, not yet.
I haven't. I don't know if I have either. I don't know. I've had instances where I've been with, like, my friend Robbie, and he swears he thinks whatever was surrounding us were dogmen. It wasn't Bigfoot. And I don't know. I have to say I'm not sure. So I can't say for sure if I have or not.
I'm out on a limb, and I'm kind of about the only other person that I know that thinks the same way I did was Grumpy, Bob Wilson.
Bob. R.I.P. Bob. I love Bob.
Yeah, I miss him.
Me too.
I don't think Bigfoot is, I don't think so much of it is an ape as I do it's canine. So, if you look at the foot structure, the way it bends, and you look at a wolf or a dog, or, look at their foot, just reform that foot. And I can see how they're more canine than just extend the bones out. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And you've got a dog man. Is Bigfoot actually what, depends on what you look at it and how you felt and what you've seen. I've seen them, and they look more like a dog in the face than they do an ape. So is that a dog man? I'm just calling it a Bigfoot. I may be having a dog man. Every encounter I've ever had has been with a dog man, and I'm still calling it a Bigfoot.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a good question. I just saw Greg's comment in here. He said that when he's talking about the Robbie who was with me when we were surrounded by Bigfoot. It's the first year we went out together in the field. The second year, it was the same scenario, but it was like threatening, kind of. It was more ominous. And it didn't feel like the same Bigfoots that had surrounded us the year before. And Greg says, when I filmed with Robbie, all of that footage was corrupted. So that's wild. Yeah, Rob. Well, that's because Robbie's a weird one. I'm just kidding. Shout out to Robbie Raines. He is a weird one. That's why I like hanging out with weird people.
That's happened to me a number of times. It just happened that tall mantis-looking face entity that we went over a couple of shows back. That one, all my thermal footage was corrupted from the whole night.
Really?
My night vision video was corrupted. The still shots were okay. All of everything, even my phone was fried that night. Only thing I was able to get out of that whole night was a couple still shots from my night vision. But any video I took or any thermal footage I took was corrupted. It wouldn't let me download nothing. This said file corrupt.
That's suspicious. It's very suspicious. And so that happens too. Do you say your phone was messed up too?
Yeah, it just went off. It wouldn't do anything. I couldn't bring it up. It was just like the battery died. And I got about halfway home, and I'm driving down the road, and then my phone just popped right back up. And, that's happened to me twice. One of those, I was actually Chris Bledsoe, I think. people may know who Chris Bledsoe is. He had
Oh yeah.
with the orbs, and he had the encounter and the abduction. I went to a face-to-face meeting with him. We had a dinner at a private residence, and it was about 10 of us there. And he told his story privately to all of us. And I stood up to shake his hand. And when I shook his hand, I had this energy. It was like electricity run between us. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and my phone, I was going to use my phone to take our picture. And we had to wind up using my girlfriend's phone to take the picture because I fried my phone. But we got about 3 miles away when we went to leave, and my phone stayed dead the whole time. And I just laid it up on my console of my truck, headed home, and then all of a sudden we got about 3 miles away and my phone come back up. Fully charged, nothing wrong with it. It's worked ever since.
It was like there was something distorting your phone while you were out there. And I remember when Glenn, shout out to Glenn Jackson, Glenn was out in the field, and we were out in the field. His phone went haywire, and it went back. It reset to like 1950 something or something. It was so weird. It went back to like, I don't even know if it was before he was born. Okay. Like some weird thing where his phone completely glitched out and it went way back in time, actually. And yeah, it was probably just a glitch, but still, with all the time travel stuff we got going on out there, with all the portals and cryptids and everything, it doesn't seem like anything's a coincidence anymore when we're out there. So
no, it's all starting to run together now. It's like Bigfoot, alien, UFOs, orbs. You can go out in one night and experience it all.
You can, especially if you go with people like us and Robbie. I'm just kidding. Yeah, if you go, I mean, we just attract all the high strangeness. We got some of the guys we go out in the field with here in the chat tonight. I even saw Daryl in here. Daryl was in here, and Daryl Neese. We got who else we got? Oh yeah, Greg. I gave some shout outs. I talked to a lot of our team today. I don't know what it is with today, but I guess it's because I was at that Bigfoot town hall. So I've been in contact with a whole bunch of people that we go out in the field with, and I don't know what do you have going on, David? You got anything coming up? Have you been out in the woods lately, or do you plan to get out there soon?
I was going to try to go this week here, and it's just dealing with this new dog and this puppy. It's taking all my time up, but I'm hoping to get down to Uwharrie when the weather breaks a little bit and it's not so brutally cold, and do some more research down there with Ed and Don, and then of course I got the Bigfoot conference in Georgia, March 22nd. I'll be speaking there, so that's my immediate future.
Oh yeah, y'all. David's going to be speaking at the conference with me. We're going to do separate presentations, but David's going to be at the 2025 Georgia Bigfoot Conference. So if you guys want to see David's presentation live and direct, and mine too, y'all please come out and see us if you're in the North Georgia area. It's going to be so worth it.
I'll be showing a whole lot of pictures of stick structures and just theories about stick structures, the whole 9 yards, all the way up to Eyeshine pictures, Bigfoot pictures, the whole 9. Just about everything I got, I'll try to include a little bit of it.
Well, shoot, yeah, and Matthew Delph will be there, and he has that video of the orbs that turn into aliens. So he usually shows it now at conferences. So if you guys want to see that too, please come out and see that. We do have another question from Angelique. She says, have either of you felt you had missing time on your overnighters? Yes, I have. Have you, David?
Yeah, one time I actually was picking the classic UFO shape up on my thermal, and it was out in a meadow in here in North Carolina, and I was filming it. And next thing I know, I couldn't move. I couldn't do anything. All I could do was move my eyeballs. Didn't know how much time had went past. I did look down at the screen on my thermal, and I remember the time stamp of where the craft was showing up on the screen. And then after it was all over with, I got home. I immediately went to that time frame, and that whole 2 hour section in that area, in that frame, was corrupt, and I couldn't download any of it.
Whoa.
So it was about a 2 hour. I thought about doing regression hypnosis, but at the same time, I don't want to.
I know. I feel you. I feel you. Barry gives me a hard time sometimes because he's like, well, don't you want to get, a regression done? And I've had a regression before over one event that happened out in North Georgia. I've had one before, but I've had a lot of experiences, and I'm just not ready yet. I don't think. I don't really want to know what else happened because I know it goes deep. There's a deep rabbit hole when it comes to all of my missing time. I've had a lot of missing time, not a lot, but I'm going to say times where I know up in North Georgia, I had one missing time incident, but where the equipment malfunctions, or at least in my reality, it's malfunctioning. It might just be that it was working fine, but I just had missing time, as far as my digital equipment goes and stuff. So, yeah. Gosh, this has been a fun show tonight. It's been really good, David. And we've talked for a couple of hours. And I know I'm exhausted. This has been a long day for me. And I know you got a dog you got to go take care of, just like I do. You got a cute dog. I wish we could see your puppy. I wish she was in there with you right now. Y'all, David's got a puppy, a brand new. Well, you've had her for about a month now. And she's what, a bloodhound?
Yeah, she's AKC registered bloodhound. I got her December the 12th. So she just turned 3 months, and she's already can put her chin on my countertop. So she's into everything.
Oh my gosh.
She jerked her toilet paper roll off the other day. She was going after the toilet paper, and she pulled the whole thing off the wall.
Oh my gosh. Well, she's a puppy. She's going to do that. At least she didn't destroy your couch. We had two dogs. My dogs, Zoe and her brother Max. And when they were puppies, we left them at my sister's house to go get dinner. And when we came back, it was a disaster zone. They had completely ripped her entire couch apart. And it looked like a blizzard or a snowstorm had happened in her house from all the foam from her couch. It was a nightmare. It was so bad. It was actually kind of funny, but it was horrible at the same time. So yeah, that happened. The good old puppy days, man. Good old puppy days.
Well, my last bloodhound did that. It was the first time she'd ever been left alone in the house after my wife passed away. And it's the first time I'd ever left her alone. And when I come home, she had dug a hole in the couch straight to China.
Oh no. Those dogs, man. And thank goodness mine finally passed out. She's laying behind me now. But she was giving me a hard time. She had some anxiety because I was gone all day, I guess, and that happens. But we 100% love our animals and our pets. And yeah. Jerry says, I'm hoping, Jessica, your own voice in the woods wasn't a mimic, but it was a transdimensional you trying to contact me. Exactly. That's what I think too. I feel like I just got my hands on some time traveling technology, David, and I have traveled back in time in the future. Hopefully I'm like 90 years old and went back to see my younger self. I think that's what it is.
I want you to give me the lotto numbers. Okay, go forward some and figure out the lotto numbers and bring it back to me.
I will. I charge though. Okay, and it's not cheap.
hey, I'll split it with you 50-50.
Okay, if I can do that, if I get my hands on that time travel equipment, I promise you I'll do it. Okay, you got a deal. I'm not gonna. There will be signs. I'm not gonna say I struck it rich in the lottery, but there will be signs. Yes, I'll have a lot of nice Bigfooting equipment. I'm just kidding. But anyways, man, this has been a great show, David. Would you like to tell the audience about your group and where they can find you, like on Facebook and YouTube?
You can find us at Carolina Cryptid Field Research on YouTube, Facebook. Matt Hooper, he handles most of the Facebook stuff, but you can reach me through the email there, carolinacryptid@gmail.com, and the link would be on the YouTube. or you can always contact me through Jessica. I'm pretty
Yeah.
easy to get hold of.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, please. And also my moderators have been putting the links to the YouTube channel and your Facebook with the group's Facebook page in the chat all night tonight. So thank you so much to all my moderators. You guys are the best. Okay. And everybody that's been in the chat tonight talking, you guys go over to Carolina Cryptid Field Research on YouTube and on Facebook. And yeah, David, I hope you'll come back and hang out with me again because we always have a good time. And I think the audience has learned a lot. I've learned a lot of stuff tonight too myself from you. And yeah, this, you guys, David's the OG of Bigfoot research. Okay, if y'all can't tell. Okay, and if you want to know how to be a great Bigfoot researcher, go tag along with David. And that's why I'm super thankful that I've been able to get my son out in the woods with you and Don and our team, our whole team. You know, we have a full team full of wonderful researchers out there, but it's been a blessing getting to hang out with you and especially learning about deer poop for my son. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah, he was a little surprised about that, but
He was shocked. He was so mad.
But yeah, it's good though to go out with everybody on the teams, and everybody's got a little something to add. You know, I don't know it all. You don't know it all. You know,
Yeah.
Between all of us putting it together, we usually can figure something out, and it's just a lot of fun.
Yes. Oh my gosh, it is. It's so fun. Jorgen, thank you so much. That is so sweet. I think Jorgen lives in Sweden or Switzerland. I can't remember, but it's international. And you are the sweetest. I appreciate you so much for being here.
Well,
I know
they can have the stone men over there, the stone giants.
The stone giants. Ooh, we'll have to do a show on that sometimes. That sounds cool. Super cool. Yeah, Sweden. He's from Sweden. Thank you. Thank you so much, Jorgen. I appreciate you.
He probably knows what I'm talking about with the stone giants or the stone men.
Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that for sure. Heck yeah. Yeah, this is awesome. And David, thank you so much. Please come back and hang out with me again soon. And I'm going to be seeing you in March. Yep. At that Bigfoot thing. I'll have you back on before then, though. We'll have some more stuff to talk about, I'm sure, at some point. Okay, and we definitely need to advertise that conference, so I'm going to bring you back on for that too, right before the conference. And yeah, but it's been a fantastic. Yes, to finish that story, my son was like, I did not come out here to learn about poop. I came out here to hunt Bigfoot, to learn how to track a Bigfoot. Okay. And so it tickles me every time I think about that. It was hilarious, but it's just part of it. So just in case you guys are wondering, yes, we do kind of need to learn about poop.
Everything.
Okay, before we go out there. You got to learn everything to go track down Bigfoots. Yeah.
So if I asked him earlier, what is that Bigfoot poop? He probably said, yeah, it's big. You got to learn about all the creatures in the woods.
I know. You do. And David, you know what? I actually have caught him teaching other people about it now. Okay. So, and he's very proud to teach people about it. Okay. So, you never know. Okay. It's just the little things like that. Now he teaches people. So thank you for allowing, Ben to get under your wing when we're out in the woods sometimes and you teaching him stuff like that. I do appreciate it. And we do have the next generation of Bigfooters coming up. So he's going to be ahead of the game for that. So I thank you, David. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. And I also wanted to go through and I wanted to thank my channel members. I've got Long Island Bigfoot, who has been a member for 10 months. Oh my gosh. Thank you, LIB. He says the Vienna, you're going to make me say it. The Vienna Club. Okay. The Vienna Club. I say Vienna. You say Vienna. David, what do you say? Do you say Vienna or Vienna?
Vienna sausages. It's Vienna.
It's Vienna. That's how we say it in my family. Okay. So Vienna. Thank you, Long Island Bigfoot, for the laugh at the very end here. Wink at me. Thank you so much. She said, I love you too. She's been a member for 11 months. And Andrew, thank you so much, Andrew. It says 3 cheers for 9 months. Yes, you are ripe and ready for birthing now. I don't know. That's 9 months. You have reached the gestation period. thank you so much for being a member of my channel too. I appreciate that. I also want to thank Kent and Maureen so much, and Jorgen. Oh, and Amy too. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Amy. Amy is in the Middle East, I think. And I saw that comment a while ago. So we have people from all over the world watching the show, you guys. We are international, David. This is amazing.
Hey,
so thank you so much.
Greg's in the chat. When's the show come out that he did, the documentary he did?
Oh, Greg Ogles. Well, his documentary is already out. It's called Cryptic Expeditions. And he had his premiere about 2 weeks ago, I think, a couple of weeks ago in Alabama, and it is out. Greg needs to come on the show too. I need to have Greg on here to talk about the LBL and all of his research with the Downy Booger. Okay, he has a documentary on that, and I believe he's working on a new one too. I sat down with him for a little bit for the new documentary that he's got coming out. So I don't know if Greg's still in here. Oh, here he is. The LBL is out. I figured Greg might have gone to sleep already because it's getting late. Okay. He said the LBL is out. So it's out right now. You can purchase it. Go to Relic Films. I think it's relicsfilms.com maybe, or y'all go find him, hunt him down. Greg, if you want to put it in the chat here, I can make Greg a moderator maybe. Let's see if I can do this. Let's see. I can ban. Well, I'd have to ban him. That's the only thing I can do right now. Greg, if anybody has his any of my moderators has the link to that, y'all are welcome to put it in the chat right now. But yeah, Relics Films is Greg's company there. So y'all go check that out. And yeah, hopefully we'll have Greg on soon too. All right. Well, everybody, you guys have a wonderful night. David, thanks again for being here tonight. And you guys come back and see me on Monday. I might have Dale Boswell on the show on Monday. We were talking about that today. He's a country music singer. He was the MC today at the event that I was speaking at the East Alabama Bigfoot Town Hall. And he's a Bigfooter. He's had some serious encounters with Bigfoot. And so y'all tune in Monday or Wednesday. Hopefully he'll be here one of those days. But I will have a show Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern. So thank you again to everybody who was here tonight, everybody who gave super stickers, everybody who's channel members. Y'all know the drill. Thank y'all so much for my Patreon members. And I will see you guys on Monday. You guys stay safe out there, please. Keep your head on a swivel. Watch your back, y'all. We're living in crazy times, but don't live in fear. Okay? And everybody have a great night. I'll see you on Monday. See you, David.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
For having me.
Oh, of course. Come back. All right, y'all. Bye.